Random thoughts. This is the first of the last videos I'm going to do from the book The First Steps in East Africa, an exploration of Harar by Sir Richard Burton. Now, I had taken a short break. I know some people were not happy with me for doing that, but there's a reason why I took a break from this book. Now I'm back. The remaining part is not that long, it's a short part of the book. And I'm going to create a few videos from that part, and then after that I'm moving to the book about the Mad Mullah. And in this video, I'm going to read a part of First Steps in East Africa by Richard Burton, where he describes the unique location of Harar and also the different names that the city was called. Now, for those who are watching me for the first time or are watching videos about this book for the first time, Richard Burton was a British spy who was sent in the 1850s, and he was sent to go to Harar to investigate and to collect information. Harar is this city that was didn't like people from outside coming in, but mostly did not like Europeans to come into the city. So Richard Burton went in as an Arab merchant, and he traveled to Zeila from Aden, then he traveled all the way to Harar. And the last video I did, he was already in Harar. He had met the emir, and he was so worried that the emir was going to discover that he was a spy. But he thought he had conned the emir because the emir sort of believed him that he was, or he had been sent by the emir of Aden. He had been sent to bring information, but he gives him a letter which actually admits that he wrote himself. So that's where we left it at. Now here, in this part, he's still in the city, and now he takes a moment to tell us some history about the city. And the first part of that history, he tells us about the different names, and he also describes the location of the city. This is what he says. I now proceed to a description of unknown Harar, the ancient capital of Hadia, called by the citizens Harar Gay, by the Somal Adari, by the Galas Adarei, and by the Arabs and ourselves Harar, lies, according to my dead reckoning, 220 southwest of and 175 statute miles from Zeila, 257 west of and 219 miles distant from Berbera. Now, I tried to understand his placing of distance, and I got a little bit confused. And the book itself, the copy, seems like there are some things that are not very clear in the way they are put. But I interpreted to mean that the city was to the southwest of Zeila, and it was also to the west of Berbera, and the distances were like 175 to 257 miles from Zeila, and something like, we can say, 219 from Berbera. Now, before I go further, we need to look at a few things. He says that this is the capital of Adia. Now, he does tell us that Adia was like a province, one of the provinces of what was called the Adal Sultanate. There is a part where he mentions that. This is a jurisdiction that I'm coming into for the first time when reading this part of Richard Burton. And he says that it was the capital of Adia, which I took to be like a province of the Adal Sultanate, something of sorts, going by how he describes it. Now, he says that this city had different names. I also did not know that the city had different names, because we just know that it was called Harar, and it's still called Harar actually. But he says the people themselves, the people who lived in the city, called it Harar Gay, but the Somali call it Adari. Now, there is a general understanding that the people of Harar were Somali people. Reading this document, and I've also read the Futu Alabasha, seems like from the two documents, we might say that this document, it was written by a European, but Futula Alabasha was not written by a European. But both books agree on one fact, that Harar was sort of cosmopolitan city. It had people from different ethnic groups being citizens of the city or residents of the city. So, but there were people who, according to Richard Burton, the people who were the citizens of the city, he chooses to not to consider them to be, or seems like he's making the impression that the Somali were not part of the city, but I don't think that's what it is, especially reading Futu al-Abasha. it is clear that Harar had a huge population of people of Somali origin, and maybe even the people he's calling to be the natives of the city are actually descendants of maybe Somali people and the Oromo people and the Arab people and other groups of people who were found in that part of East Africa. And so he says the people themselves, the city, the residents of the city called it Hararge. The Somalis called it Adari. The Galas, the Oromos, they called it Adarei. And the Arabs and ourselves call it Harar. So this city was known by different names. And then he also tells us, of course, I've talked about the distance, but he also mentions the longitude and the latitude. And I'm surprised that he was so accurate about this, actually, near accurate, because today we have more uh, specific numbers as far as the latitude and the longitude are concerned. Trying to look at today's, what is given today, it is given to be 9.3 north and 42.12 east. Now, what he gives is 9.2 north, so a difference of 0.1. And he also gives 42.17, a difference of like 0.05. So very minute difference. So he was very accurate on that, actually. So he continues to say this will place it in 9.20 north latitude and 42.17 east longitude. The thermometer showed an altitude of about 5,500 feet above the level of the sea. This is also very interesting, and and what else he's going to say about the location of the city make it sound like Harar was at a very perfect location in terms of climate and weather. He continued to say, each site is the slope of an hill which falls gently from the west to east. On the eastern side are cultivated fields. Westwards, a terraced ridge is laid out in the orchards. Northwards is a detached eminence covered with tombs, and to the south, the city declines into a low valley bisected by a mountain band. This irregular position is well sheltered from high winds, especially on the northern side, by the range of which Kondura is the lofty apex. Hence, as the Persian poet sings of a heaven-favored city, its heat is not hot, nor its cold cold. So it was a perfect location. And looking at that altitude, it's close to Nairobi. Like Nairobi is about 5,800 feet above sea level. And Nairobi is often described by many people to have a very perfect climate. It's not cold, cold, and it's not hot, hot. It's just somewhere. It's like a sweet spot when it comes to how hot it can be and how cold it can be. And seems like it's the same case with Harar. So it's also sheltered, or it was sheltered, or is still sheltered. Of course, the city is still there, sheltered from strong winds. So meaning that it was a calm city, we could say. And there were farms nearby. There was a cemetery nearby. So that's the picture he gives us of that city. And yeah, so that's what he tells us about the location of the city and the climate of the city, and also the different names that the city was called by different groups of people. Those are my random thoughts.